Hello. This is Fountain here, and today I want to talk about the beautiful Hertz of 528. Now, I'm assuming some of you may have already heard about 528 Hertz, and maybe some of you haven't, and that's okay. So I guess 528 Hertz, most people would associate it with the solfeggio tunings. And the original tunings were about seven different tunings, and there's also two others that they've found a bit later on, I guess you could say. So a total of 9 different tunings, and 528 Hertz is one of them. And they often associate 528 Hertz with the Mi scale, the MI sort of scale. It's also interesting how the word of Mi, if you look at the etymology, can then actually lead on to the word miracle. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later on. So before we start getting more into some of the properties of it, I want to get a little bit into the maths. So I'm not going to go too far into this, just some very simple vortex maths. So if you're not really sure what vortex math is, I'm not really going to explain it in this video. You're welcome to go look that up somewhere else. But I'll give you the example of the 528. So you're going to take each digit of that 528 and you're going to add them up together. So 5 plus 2 plus 8 is 15. And you need to reduce it down even again. So 1 plus 5 is 6. And so it gets to the magical number of 6 in vortex maths. And that number, it always sounds a bit funny, especially if you're like Australian or you're Kiwi, and the way that it's pronounced. Anyway, I won't go into that. It's not the purpose of this video. I'm digressing. Okay, back on track. So if some of you obviously, maybe, should I say, are aware of Dr. Emoto's work with the water molecules, and what he was working with was certain sounds, certain frequencies, certain intentions that were spoken or sounded into water, and then watching the shapes in which the water molecules would form. One of the most beautiful ones was 528 Hertz. If you want to look for pictures of that, you're welcome to do that through your usual internet searching. You'll find some really beautiful pictures of 528 Hertz water molecules. Now, bless his soul, Dr. Emoto is no longer here, but he recently actually was here, so his passing has really only happened in the last number of years. So yeah, amazing, beautiful work. Highly recommend you go check out some of the science and some of the research that he conducted during his lifetime here. Okay, so getting more into the properties of 528 Hertz, it can, these are all things that can assist. I'm not here to tell you that these will definitely heal this or definitely heal that. As you know, there's a lot of framework and around when it comes to the medical industry, what you can and can't say you can do. So we're just going to stick to the terms of it may assist. So here we go. 528 Hertz may assist with reducing stress and reducing the toxic effects of alcohol, even in one study. It was a really interesting study where they were observing what was happening to the body and the cells when one was drinking alcohol, and then playing 528 Hertz music or sounds. And what they were finding is obviously through the action of drinking alcohol will cause more than normal amount of cells in your body to die, basically. As we know, drinking alcohol is rather toxic, usually, especially in the way it's normally done in a lot of modern society. And with this tuning, they were finding that there was actually quite a reduction of cell loss, in which normally, I couldn't tell you the exact numbers off the top of my head. So there's X amount of cells that would normally be lost through the activity of drinking, but they were finding that there was actually up to 80% less. Now, I'm not saying go out there and get really drunk and just think you can play 528 Hertz and that's just completely going to balance out all your alcoholic toxic choices that you might make, but this is just an example of the potentials in which, you know, something like 528 Hertz could do. And it's amazing because a lot of people, when they do drink, they will be in an environment in which music's actually playing. And I don't want to go too much into the standard sort of tuning, it's not really the purpose of this video, but you know, that can actually be more destructive, the standard tuning, to one's being. So, you know, imagine the impact of industries that decide to change the tuning of the music, and how that could actually mean that their customers are not experiencing as much of a toxic experience as normal. Anyway, that's a whole other pondering, a whole other video for another day. So, with the 528 Hertz, it's also often associated with an energy point, which some may call it the Solar Plexus. And so if you think about anything to kind of do with that sort of, some people call it the third energy center point, but there's actually a couple of other energy points that sit lower than just the base of the spine. But if you think about all this kind of things that are often associated with that energy point, before I go too much further, the solar plexus is normally a couple of inches sort of just above the belly button. So it's not quite at the chest area, it's not at the belly button, but it's sort of midway between there. But there's also many other little energy points all around the body. So yeah, I can't say exactly it'll be like in the same place in regards of measuring your anatomy as everybody, because we all have our own sort of lengths of how far away our belly button is from our chest and all of that, because we all kind of come in different shapes and sizes. That's just to give you a general idea of where yours may be. And then so with that sort of solar plexus chakra and the 528 Hertz, it can assist with things obviously like if you've got some issues with your digestion, anything obviously to do with things like anxiety in your nervous system, because it's all associated with your digestion. How do you process information, right? And if you're not able to process information, that causes that sort of nervousness and anxiety. But it also can help with things like giving you more self-confidence and self-motivation, because those are the sort of outputs that can come from a really nice healthy solar plexus. And then obviously with, like I said before, interesting how that me scale is can be associated, you know, the etymology of the word miracle, and the 528 Hertz is associated with transformation and miracles. But the most important thing that I wanted to touch on and to let you know is that 528 Hertz can actually be associated with DNA repair. And if some of you are aware of certain things that are going on in the world, you know, there's certain people are doing certain activities that are, I mean, we do things all the time that damage our DNA, like you know, just drinking unhealthy water, eating unhealthy food, being in unhealthy environments, you know, these consistent, you know, sort of DNA damage that goes on. But there's also ways in which you can repair your DNA, obviously with the 528 Hertz. But there's also particular activity that a lot of people in modern society are sort of being forced to undertake of late, that's obviously associated with RNA, which is also associated with your DNA, because it's like a travelling point in which information can occur. And they're sort of being encouraged to, you know, get these things. I don't need to say anymore. Things get monitored. Anyway, so 528 Hertz can obviously be a useful tool to immerse yourself in, especially if you're spending a lot of time with those that are very highly immersed in that kind of dimension or reality, mindset, whatever you want to call it. You know, really good in obviously repairing your DNA, because you don't actually have to get this yourself to experience some DNA damage just by being around those that are around you. And if you've got some things going on in your auric field or your energy field that is allowing that to kind of leak in, you know, obviously that's an opportunity for you to look at yourself and how can you make sure that you're me really good. You know, this is not about saying that you need to avoid certain situations. It's just an opportunity for you to look at what can you do to help build your own sort of auric field immunity, I guess. And yeah, so if, you know, it's just, you know, something like 528 Hertz, you know, tuning fork, they're not exactly super expensive to obtain one, but also, you know, if you've got an internet access, you can also just listen to others that have created sounds and music that's in 528 Hertz as well. So it's just another option to show you that if you're experiencing some things or you're worried about your own sort of DNA repair, then 528 Hertz is a very, very useful tool. Another thing I want to touch on with DNA is we sort of understand that science has only really been able to explain maybe anywhere up to 10%, if that, of what the DNA in a human body is. And they sort of consider the rest of the DNA as being junk DNA. However, they just haven't been able to explain it because they're trying to look at it through a scientific lens that can be very, very restricting. And there's a lot of things that cannot be explained through science because science hasn't come to a point yet where it's able to really understand and actually explain it. You know, these are all things that we already know. Some of us just kind of need to remember. And yeah, that's all I need to say in regards to that. If you have any questions, if you'd like to know some more about 528 Hertz, or maybe there's other Hertz ranges that you've heard some magical properties about, more than welcome to leave that in the comment section down below. If you've got anything that you want to share about 528 Hertz, again, you're welcome to leave that in the comment section down below. You'll also find me on various other social media platforms that will be found in the description box of the YouTube platform, if you're watching this on the YouTube platform. And you also find me on my website, Oneness Being, as well, where I've got some beautiful offerings on there. Lots of beautiful sound offerings, obviously, and Reiki, and even 528 Hertz infused water as well. So yeah, just more than welcome to reach out if you want to, and I will see you very soon.